From Daytona to Atlanta, it's back-to-back super speedway racing in NASCAR. We go to the Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Ambetter 400. We'll give you all of our DFS plays and all of our favorite betting picks for this race. So stick on around. We'll see you in the back road right after this.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race is.
One points paying race down, 35 to go. What's up, everyone? Welcome down the back road. Tonight, we preview the Ambetter 400 in Atlanta. My name is Seth Woolcock, and I'm joined by one of the best damn trumpet players in the nation, along with a great NASCAR handicapper. He's the host of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, my co-host here on the back road, Rod Villagomez. Hot Rod, how are we doing today, my friend?
I am so excited to have yet another weekend of NASCAR. I know that once football season's over, everybody else feels the lull, not us, my friend. That is when our year picks up. We are 2 races down. A crazy Daytona schedule left me not even knowing what day of the week it was, to be honest with you, because I was deeply considering this being like already a Friday or even Saturday, but it's only a Thursday.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I was a day off this entire week, so I'm glad to hear there's a little bit of continuity between you and I. Tonight, we have a great episode planned for the IBT family. We're going to close the book on Daytona, look back, see what we can learn from it. Then we're going to break down Atlanta, do some DFS rankings, do some betting as well. So I'm excited to jump into that with you here, Rod. It's been an electric season already, man, and we're flying by the seat of our pants, but I'm excited to get into week 2 of the regular season in Atlanta. But why don't we start with looking back at what was a fun, not so fruitful Daytona race here. What do you say we jump into the rear view?
Let's do it.
It was Monday, but it was still a banger nonetheless. We had 5 cautions for 20 laps in the Daytona 500. Surprisingly, however, we did get 41 different lead changes and just over 11,000 green flag passes. William Byron takes it in a late one, controversial one as well. Alex Bowman thought he might have a claim to the Daytona 500 trophy. He did not. Rod, this is one of those races, we can do all the research going into it. I thought we had some really great picks, but at the end of the day, some of the fastest cars in the race get taken out in the big one with 10 to go.
Yeah, and honestly, I know that Cody over there on NASCAR Gambling Podcast, my buddy, he is pissed off at whoever controls the little trigger button for the yellow, because, it's like the replay official in football, right? Or the referee in football. There's going to be scrutiny all over the place for these guys, because all you see is when they mess up. You don't see when they get it right. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you if I could have been faster on the button. It's so hard to not only envision a scenario where you have to be aware of everything on the track and then make that split-second decision. I mean, I'm pushing 50. Like the from here to here, it's not the same as it was back in the day. And I'm sure the dude's a little older than me. So he's probably like, C-wreck. Oh, that was a wreck. Hit button, right? As opposed to C-wreck, hit button. So I can't really blame him. But yeah, it is frustrating for Bowman fans and Bowman himself to not get that win.
And in addition to that, while it was great product for TV, Jeff Gluck's poll, was it a good race? It returned good results. However, if you were there, you might not have been so happy, because we had an average speed in this race, Rod, just over 157 miles per hour, one of the slowest Daytona 500s in a long, long time. It's because they're playing this fuel mileage chicken now. And I think Ricky Stenhouse kind of introduced this last season where, hey, I'm going to run a little bit lighter on the gas. I'm going to have a quicker pit stop. I'm going to get off pit road, and at the end, I'm going to have track advantage and potentially cash some outright tickets for him and his team and the bettors. And at the end of the day, man, it makes it feel a little Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? It made it feel a little bit Mickey Mouse at times, that there wasn't some real racing going on. There were drivers who wanted to be at the front. We saw Logano consistently jumping to that third lane, getting it going. But the fuel mileage chicken it dampers things a little bit until the end of those stages, Rod.
So, and that was what stage breaks were kind of meant to do too, right? Back in the day, was to lessen the need for fuel mileage races, because everybody hated that was the worst thing you could say about a race. Almost like a quarterback being a game manager. It's like, that was a fuel mileage, fuel. But yeah. So, but here's the thing about it too. When the initial, after 5 or 6 laps of the big one happened, they settled way the hell down. Like, to me, that's when it got real for that race. And I think that may have set the tone for it. Really, that early caution just set the tone for the race. Nobody wanted to stick their necks out because they saw what happened early in the race when that happened. And they were like, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to lay back. We're going to click off these laps. And when it's time to make a move for either stage points or the win, then we'll do it.
I wish, when Amazon comes to NASCAR in a couple of years from a broadcast standpoint, I hope they have some next gen stats that says, hey, this is how many times this guy has wrecked a car, how many cars they are responsible for on super speedways. Because goddamn, Brad Keselowski, whether it's Harrison Burton or at the end, Brad's making it happen and just absolutely ruining some cards. Why don't we break down some more of our betting cards, and let us know in the chat as well, how did your betting week go in Daytona? I broke even, Rod, somehow by the skin of my teeth. A couple interesting markets out there that we had last week. I was able to cash in on Ross leading a lap and Suarez both at plus money leading a lap. Harrison Burton, not so much. Any good luck for you in any of those extra markets out there? I know the car number, I think you were right on that, the over, which was plus 175 early in the week when you called it out on your program.
Yeah, and that was it. Honestly, I had the fastest car in the whole thing. I had Logano out there, went out and won the pole, and I was like, well, we're done. That's basically it. I can kiss that one goodbye. But then he was strong all day long for the most part. He was strong, and then couldn't come up with the win because of, again, the whole when everybody pitted, and he got kind of caught up in that mess because he didn't pit when everybody else did, and it just it evaporated. But I mean, that was really the only one I hit on. Everything else just sort of, it was cashing until it wasn't. And what I love, who was it that said it? Was it Logano? I don't remember who exactly said it, but we're gonna now use this phrase. It's super speedway racing. It's fun until it sucks. That's exactly what it is with betting. It's fun until it sucks, and it pretty much sucked for me most of that day.
I said in my lead in my column last week that betting on super speedways is a lot like drinking on an empty stomach. You're going to get that damn buzz rolling. It's going to feel good, but at some point it might not feel as good at the end, and you might regret it the next morning when you wake up. I also was able to cash my top 20 on Zane Smith, minus 105, close to even money there. Win a unit down on that. I was hoping we would see maybe the top 20 market again this week, the to lead a lap market, but I think the book got burned on that with guys like Noah Gragson, David Reagan leading some laps out there, Guy LaJoy. So I don't think they're going to bring that back. I haven't seen it as of this recording, which we're live here on Thursday evening. Other than that, though, I had Justin Haley in a group bet. That didn't cash. He did get second after a guy, Jimmy Johnson, man. Jimmy Johnson cannot. What is it, man? It's like the first 5 laps of every damn race this guy's been in the last year since he's been in the 84. Doesn't even get 5 clean laps in before someone's got to take him out.
Look, and at the duels, I was like, dude, this is it. He managed to race his way in. He's in a Toyota now. Things should be different, right? No, same old.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about that 84, but it is a accident magnet. And I'm so sad.
And like you, I was on the Joey Logano heavy. I had a boost all the way up to 21-1. I was riding. I was thinking, oh, geez, this might be it. Someone might win from the pole for the first time since 2000. No, that's still a trend. That's certainly still a trend. Michael McDowell was on him as well. Didn't even get a shot going. I don't. Some mechanical failure there, Rod. Wasn't able to get his car into 5th gear. And what's the broadcast doing? They're not updating us on these guys who are falling out of the race. That was a real bummer from a betting perspective. I'm like, where's Michael McDowell? What happened?
Yeah, and what's funny is that we joked to Cody was like, he's probably still out there logging laps, and I was like, yeah, he's waiting to be told when to come into pit, like he's playing fuel mileage strategy. Somebody forgot to tell him that the race was over, so yeah, I love that. It was just I mean, look, it was a fun week, obviously for racing because it's back, right? But it was definitely a frustrating week because we always tell you, unless you were holding a William Byron ticket, which by the way, for those of you out there that were,
shout out,
yeah, I know there's a lot of them. And that was fantastic. But at the same time, like you got to go into it thinking you're going to lose every single thing that you put into it.
Yeah, unless you had the Byron ticket or you were one of those degens with the 3.5 to 1 ticket on Austin Hill going into Monday night, like there probably wasn't a lot of winners here. I'm guessing that the books won this week. I would be curious to see if anyone has any information if the public did do better, but I don't think they did. But with that being said, Rod, we now actually have 1 week worth of data. We have a track, a very good comp to Atlanta. So why don't we break it down a little bit further and take some lessons learned from Daytona and apply them to Atlanta here in Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, and as alluded to, this Atlanta track, it's a 1.5 mile super speedway, narrower. It's going to race a little more like Daytona than Talladega. So keep that in mind, certainly, as we head into the weekend. And this was a term, you used it on your show earlier today or yesterday. And then we had Derek, who I think might have coined a new term here in the industry. So shout out to Derek for this. Handling super speedway is now kind of what we're labeling this since it's been reconfigured in 2002, a mini super speedway, whatever you want to call it, Rod. It's an interesting thing because you do have to kind of treat it as a super speedway, but we're not quite getting the same super speedway offerings from the books at the same time.
No, they definitely know that there's a little more skill involved with this. And good on Derek, too. Like I said, I loved it. When I heard it, I was like, boom, that's it. But we also had somebody else in our chat, too, that labeled it a super intermediate. So I do like that as well.
Okay.
So super intermediate track, handling track, however you want to call it, handling super speedway. It's all of that. And this is where obviously you see the favorites kind of a little more in the front than you do in these just straight up super speedway races, because with the fact that you said the track's much narrower than it is in most super speedways, it tends to have people not wanting to start that third line out there unless they're sure that they can make it work, right? There's not a lot of 3 wide at Atlanta. So you don't want to be caught in the middle of a 3. You don't want to be caught in the middle of a 3 wide at Daytona, let alone Atlanta. So so that's why you see a lot of these guys that are normal front runners kind of stay up front, because they're the ones that are running faster, and not a lot of people want to take too many chances on this track and stick their neck out and get it lopped off.
We've had moments at this new Atlanta that's been like, oh, damn, is Corey LaJoie going to pull out a long shot? We've had other moments like that. However, it has been Hendricks who's won 3 out of the last 4, and then Penske. They have the other one with Joey Logano. So really no surprises there. When we look at this race in particularly, I am weighing most heavily Atlanta 2022 and 2023. We at least have 4 races, 2 years worth of data to go off of. And then last week's Daytona 500, I am weighing heavily as my closest comp track as well, Rod. I will be looking a little bit at Daytona 500 from last year and the second Daytona race in the fall. And then, of course, Talladega a little bit as well. It's kind of like a tertiary comp for me. Anything else you're really weighing here as we head into Daytona and looking at your data sets?
No, and again, because Atlanta is kind of the unique beast that it is, you kind of have to just take that into full account. And honestly, look, we haven't had back-to-back super speedway races ever, right? So, this is a first for these guys to still be in that same pack racing mindset that they were in last week. So maybe there is a little more of an advantage to having the same feel of being in a car that's going to be in close quarters with everybody else for 100 and some odd laps, 200 laps. So again, it's mainly Atlanta, like you said, because that's the only real comp track that's out there. And then if you want to just kind of broaden out the scope to include all of these pack racing and the style of racing that it is to complement your numbers, then by all means do that. But yeah, it's mainly Atlanta.
Looking at the schedule here, we're going to have Saturday qualifying 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Rod's going to be waking up with his cereal that morning. And then pit entry practice for 10 minutes in the random Saturday afternoon, 12:50 to 1 p.m. can we get these guys some more damn practice? I know we've been yelling at it for a while, but it'd be something to watch, and it also give us a little more data going into Sunday as bettors. Potentially have something we get down on heading into the day of the race. Sunday, the race will be happening 3 p.m. Eastern time. 0% chance of rain.
Thank God.
Yes, no rain should impact this race. Congratulations. And the stages this week, lap 60, lap 160, and lap 260. Let's look at some trends here, Rod. Not a ton of them because we only do have a couple races here at this configuration. Kyle Larson actually leads all active drivers in starting position at Atlanta, 8.8 in 17 races. Next best, Chase Briscoe. I know that doesn't matter to you because the starting position doesn't matter at these tracks. However, Logano leads all polls here with 5 of them, or with 2 of them, and then only 5 pole winners remain active right now in the sports. It's all the vets you'd expect: the Denny's, the Kyle Bushes, the Truexes, and Logano, and then you have Ricky Stenhouse, who randomly won a pole here not too long ago as well. And as we mentioned, Hendricks, they have won 3 of the last 4 races here. Penske, another one. Before we jump into the DFS, I do want to mention our Asterisks driver of the week. This is from ifantasyrace.com. Make sure you guys are checking out everything Ryan and his team are putting out. This is how Rod, Elliot, and I, and a lot of people in the industry come to conclusions with our bets. There's a lot of advanced metrics. There's a lot of basic metrics on there. There's everything from the schedule for the week. Everything you need to know as a NASCAR gambler and DFS player, you should be checking out over there on ifantasyrace.com. We appreciate their partnership with the Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week. And Ryan Blaney is this week's, no doubt about it. Ryan Blaney was one of the best last summer, but finished with an Asterisk Mark 9th here, Rod. He won stage 1, second in stage 2, led 20 laps, had an average finishing or running position of 4.8. But when it all came down to it, he had to pit during the waning moments of stage 2 and drop back to the high teens. And if you remember, that was a rain-shortened race as well, Rod, and kind of got left into it, couldn't get back in the race. But we cannot forget Ryan Blaney. He has one of the best averages across super speedways in the next-gen era, and also just here in Atlanta as well.
Well, and last week at Daytona, too. I mean, if he wouldn't have gotten caught up in what he got caught up in, too, we could have been talking about Ryan Blaney. So, yeah, I mean, it's very, very hard to count out Ryan Blaney on a week-to-week basis. Obviously, the dude's a champion, right? He is the reigning NASCAR champion. So the second you doubt him is the second he creeps up on you again. So, and I think I had Blaney in instances last week, too, and I got burned by that as well. But, yeah, definitely going to be keeping an eye on him this season because he's fast and he's fast everywhere.
Yeah. I've been looking for some way to get in my betting card. I have not yet. However, I will be playing him in a variety of DFS lineups thanks to Ryan's data there. All right, let's go ahead. Looks like we got I Am Notorious in the chat. What's up, man? Good to see you. Rod, that's your brother. Am I correct?
That is my brother. Hi, brother.
There we go. Nick, I believe, right, Nick?
Yes. Look at you. Good job.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice recall.
Same last name, Villagomez?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's a good last name. Last name. Except you were also at the end of the alphabet in school too. So you kind of got shafted. Like whenever it's my one gripe against my gym teacher, we would line up. He picked 10 or 12 kids who actually were either athletic or gave a shit. I was more the gym class hero. I don't want to call myself athletic, but then we would go and we would do a draft to draft teams for different things like volleyball, pickleball tournaments, you name it. And my fucking gym teacher would always do a snake draft. So the most athletic kids with the A's and the B names, they get 2 athletic kids. I get 2 not very athletic kids. So absolute bummer there. I'm sure you've lived that a couple times as well.
Yeah, well, being last has its privileges sometimes, but yeah, more often. And in the Army, you definitely don't want a name back then. It's like, yeah, that's yeah.
Could not even imagine. Rod, let's go ahead. Let's break it down a little bit further this week in our tire tiers. All right, this is the tire tiers. We're going to be looking at DraftKings and Fantrax prices and let you guys know who you should be putting in your DFS lines and maybe who you should not be putting in your DFS lines. We had a lot of those last week. I had some negative pointers in there. Was not a great week on the circuit. But Rod, let's bounce back here. Who is a driver A? Who's your 101 this week?
It's funny because if you look at the active and for more than anything on these tracks, if you look at the top 10 stats, that's generally a good place to start, because if these guys can run inside of the top 10, then the difference between 10 and 1 sometimes, especially if melees occur in the first 2 rows and take everybody else out, could mean the difference between winning and losing this race. But if you take a look at the top 10 stats on this, 2 of the 3 are gone, right? Kurt Busch leads this with 17 top 10s, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, right? But for me, I think, and I don't want to say it because, again, Kyle Busch is such a tough nut to crack, but I think Kyle Busch deserves recognition in Tier A this week.
Wow. Yeah. I thought I might be on an island with my love for Kyle Busch this week, but I'm 100% with you. I'm going to cut a whole promo in the betting section for our man Rowdy. But I'm with you, dude. He is great at Atlanta, very low-key good at super speedways in this next-gen era as well, and fucking relentless, man. It doesn't matter how his team fucks him over. Kyle Busch is going to put himself back in the conversation. And at the price you're getting him, $9,700, like you could sneak in someone else on DraftKings here as well. You could sneak in a Christopher Bell into your lineup, a Brad Keselowski, one of these higher end drivers. So I'm with you. He's my anchor driver throughout Fantrax and DraftKings lineups this week. I also think I'd like to throw in William Byron after what he has done here to begin this year. Once again, I mean, man, we were too low on William Byron last week, Rod. We were absolutely too low on him. He comes in here off the Daytona 500 victory. He's also won twice at Atlanta in this new configuration. I'm high on William Byron, and I think Ryan Blaney probably deserves to be up here as well, Rod, after kind of what we talked about, being one of the best. If you look at the last 4 races, average finishing position at Atlanta, Ryan Blaney is the top of the class. So I like Ryan Blaney in a bounce back. I expect him to potentially get some stage points too, which is very helpful for your lineups.
Yeah, and for Blaney too, I know he's a $10,000 driver, which may scare a lot of people away. That's also a good thing for you, because if that scares a lot of people away, because there's a lot of DFS players too, especially on super speedways, that don't recognize that you can pretty much just go with whatever you want, and you can throw in drivers and leave money on the table, and you could put in high price drivers and a bunch of low price drivers and still find leverage with it. So I like your Blaney play. Look, surprise play, another one. Let's throw Chastain in the mix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't normally put Ross Chastain in the A category, but in this particular race, look, in 2022, he was runner-up in both Atlanta races. Like, he was a top car in both of those races. Last season, he was horrible, right? 13th and 35th in those 2. Okay, well, 13th is not horrible, but for Ross Chastain to be $8,600, I think he is a highly valued bargain up in this A category. So give me the guy that finished runner-up both times in 2022 to have a bounce back season. And we saw some pretty good moves from him, right? Almost there toward the end.
Ballsy. Yeah. Once again, Ross, like he's not afraid to be who he is. And he showed us that in Daytona. And damn, did that Busch Light car look sweet out there. So I'm with you here. I was high on Ross last week. I think I'm high on him again. I am also very high once again on none other than Christopher Bell. I'm back, baby. I'm back on Christopher Bell. You look at our total speed rankings at Atlanta in the next gen era, courtesy of iFantasy Race. Christopher Bell's won across the board, average ranking of 4.3. He is great here. He finished in the top 5 once again last week. This guy has a knack for super speedway racing and starting to come fruition. Give me Christopher Bell here. The fade does not go into 2024 like it was last year.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he may be somebody that I talk about on the NASCAR Gambling podcast as well, and maybe even here at that point, because, yeah, you're right. When you see that name up top, you go, really? I mean, it's a little bit of a surprise, but there he is right up at top, the fastest speed ranking at this track over the last two seasons. So, yeah, give me that one. Man, I don't know about the A's anymore, because everybody else up here makes me kind of wheezy.
I'm good with dropping down. Those were the clear top 5 for me as well.
Okay, good. You ready for some B's? Let's throw in Eric Jones. I love me some Legacy Motor Club folks. And then go ahead and put John Hunter in there. Yeah. Both of these guys finished in the top 10, right? 7-8 last week at Daytona. Unfortunately, their teammate didn't necessarily suffer this or get the same successes they did, but they put together a hell of a race and they stayed out of trouble. I mean, they were the 2 Legacy. Well, okay, as much as you can stay out of trouble in Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to be 7-8 last week in Toyotas, in brand new Toyotas, that opened my eyes. And I give them an opportunity to kind of be guys that start toward the back again, right? In this instance, and work their way up to the front and just sort of methodically be there at the end. So yeah, give me the two legacy Motor Club drivers.
If you stacked the legacy cars last week, you were in good shape, man. Every lineup I had, I think John Hunter was maybe my highest scorer because he was kind of my dart throw last week and still getting them at very good prices this week as well, Rod. John Hunter down at 6,200. I can bite that bullet. And Eric Jones, a little more 8,000 flat. But remember that run Eric Jones had last year at Atlanta where he came out of nowhere? He was like in 15th and he finishes 8th. Like, that's the type of shit this guy does here at Atlanta. So keep that in mind. So I'm actually going to pull a pivot. I'm going to go Alex Bowman here, 8,200 on DraftKings. This guy was phenomenal last week. And not only does Alex Bowman tend to get off to hot starts, we rode it last year in the betting market. It was very profitable for us. But also, he's number 7 in those Atlanta next-gen total speed rankings from Ryan and I Fantasy Race. So I like Alex Bowman as a little bit of a leverage spot, a little bit of pay down spot. And can you talk me into not putting Chase Elliott in this tier as well? He's won at this Atlanta configuration, a little more expensive, but I can still get behind it at 9,800. It's not the worst value on the board.
Yeah, I was going to actually say, why don't you just go ahead and throw him up there as well? Because again, it's everybody but Larson on this one for the Hendrick Motorsport team. So, I mean, you already got Byron up there. You have the other 2 in Bs. Not a bad, and you talked about it too. Hendrick has won, right? They've won on this track, and they're pretty much the owners of this configuration of this track. So you'd be very negligent if you didn't have at least one or more lineups with any and all of them. And if you wanted to stack all 3 in one of them, get crazy. I mean, again, this is a super speedway DFS. Yeah. Anything goes. Anything goes.
Yes. Yeah. Great point there. Like, it is a little heavier towards the favorites than it was last week, but still anything goes here. With that being said, do you have any wild cards for your B tier, or are you going to lock in a safe pick?
Do you want to put Brad Keselowski on there? I only say Brad Keselowski because, again, when we're looking at top 10s on this one, the last 2 of last season, he had a 2nd place and a 6th place finish. And I guess if you're going to put the 6, you might as well put the 17 because Chris Buescher is going to be right behind him at a point. So, I mean, if we're stacking teams, then that's a team you're going to stack as the 6 and the 17. I know Keselowski did not make any friends last week in Daytona. He hardly ever really makes friends, I suppose, anywhere. But yeah, again, his success on this track last season lends me to believe that he could do it again. And I think in a DFS app, I'd be more comfortable with them in DFS than I would in betting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Joey Logano belongs here as well. And if it weren't for the price, I'd be higher on Logano. I just can't take that chalk this week. He's probably expected. I mean, he's the favorite to qualify out front. So you're going to be losing differential points probably again with Logano. That's what kind of burned us last week. We were getting a little bit of dominator points, some most laps led points from him. It wasn't enough to overcome it. However, you look at what he did here last year, number 1 in the NASCAR driver ratings at Atlanta 1, and then number 5 at the 2nd Atlanta race later in the year. So Joey Logano is great here, but it just comes with some risk, and I think that's why he kind of falls towards the end of B's for me here. In addition to Logano, I don't think I can put Hamlin here with his price. I would probably drop Hamlin to a C. Is that fair for you?
I almost would put Hamlin at a D. I mean, if you look at what Hamlin's done over the last 3 of the 4, I will say pretty much since the reconfiguration, 29th, 25th, 6th, 14th. Like, I don't know. You could put him in the C. That's fine. Because last year, if I'm gonna make the argument that somebody did well last year, and that Keselowski had 2 good finishes last year, then a 6th and a 14th, that's good enough for a C driver. But the problem is that Denny Hamlin's price is not one that I think. I mean, he's the most expensive driver on the board at 10.5.
Doesn't make any sense for me. Yeah, I can't get behind a 10.5 Denny Hamlin. I will probably be rostering no Denny Hamlin this week. I think probably in that C tier too. Like, let's throw Kyle Larson. I know we like to fade him. However, I tweeted it out last week. I thought it was a nice little leverage spot because people were going to continue to fade him. We've seen he has a little more success here at Atlanta than some of these other ones, not with finishing position, but he has been known to get out and lead some laps. So I like him. I have one maybe dark horse for the B tier that I want to throw out. and I hate it, and I hate it, and I think it was either you or Brian who put him up here last week. Austin Cindric, $7,000, Rod. Austin Cindric is $7,000 fucking dollars. I think it's going to be chalky. I think people know how good he is here, but you look at those driver ratings here from a year ago, and Austin Cindric, number 3 in the second Daytona race, and number 6 in that first Daytona race as well, or excuse me, Atlanta race. So Austin Cindric is known to heat up here at Atlanta. It was a good run until it wasn't last week. Can you get behind him as a B driver? Or do you want him in the C's?
Let's put him in the C's.
Okay.
Put him above Hamlin and Larson in the C's if we're ranking.
Okay.
And look, Austin Cindric was first in total speed rankings in this race last year, the Ambetter 400 last year. So yeah, he was a fast car. I mean, that you can't deny that. And that 2 car looks good. It looks like he's going to be good again this season. He's had a pretty decent showing last week. But yeah, again, it's a matter of leverage for you, especially at the price that Cindric's at. Yeah. And if people stay away from him because he's not a name that they say on the broadcast all the time, then better for you, better for you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Who else belongs in this tier for you, Rod?
Oh my God. Again, I'm so, I guess we could put Bubba up there.
Yep. Yep. That was my next call as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. Bubba deserves to be in the conversation. Put him above Cindric too, even.
Okay. Yep. I'm with you there.
Yeah. Because I think Bubba has a little more going for him than does Austin Cindric at this point. 5th in the Daytona 500, led 3 laps, got you 61 fantasy points last week. Like, what more can you ask for? Like, we talked about it too, as far as this 23-11 team with Reddick. We thought Reddick was going to be the better right out of the gate than Bubba this season, but Bubba pretty much came out and swung for the fences and managed to find himself. And he had a really fast car. I mean, he was sticking with everybody that he needed to stick with to put himself in the right position. And you saw what the finishing came up with. Like I said, started 24th, finished 5th. That's a damn good DFS day for you.
I love the mindset of Bubba Wallace right now. He was on door bumper clear of Dirty Mo earlier this week. Apparently, he went down to Daytona a month before this race, was just living out of his camper, just kind of digging the warm sunshine state there. And like, I love that he was on that show saying like he's kind of past the point where he doesn't like feel like he needs to have a chip on his shoulder and tell everyone to fuck off. And I feel like I've gotten to that point in my life a little bit where like you're established, you feel established, you feel validated a little bit. The imposter syndrome goes away. I think Bubba's feeling that a little bit now, taking kind of more of a mentor role from Raja in the truck series and some different things. So I like Bubba a lot. I think he's a great play here this week for me. So no fight from me there. Corey LaJoie, can we put him? I would almost say even definitely above Hamlin, maybe above Larson. Looking at the total speed rankings, he's been in the top 2 on one of these races. Or top 5, excuse me. That was Atlanta 1 of last year. He was fast in Atlanta 2 of 2022. Corey LaJoie loves Atlanta. If he's going to get a win, this is the track, Rod.
Well, I'm waiting for Cody to pop up in the chat because I know he's lurking out there. Yeah, I'm contractually obligated to say good things about Corey LaJoie. We're riding we could put him above Cindric too. We're riding the Corey LaJoie car lift all the way up to the top this week, or at least Cody is. I'm sort of there with the jack in hand. If I have to start pumping, then I'll start pumping. But yeah, Corey LaJoie, look, he's a great story. Like, here, yeah, and here's Cody, Corey. Yeah, look, it's a great story. I mean, he's definitely got the golden locks, which I don't think he's got right now. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my Corey LaJoie pitch. I'll let you listen to Cody flush that out on our show.
Yeah, I don't have. I think he has like a picture of him or something. I don't have a picture, a statue of Corey LaJoie, but I do like him. He will be in lineups for me this week. So, anyone else you think belongs in C? I think I maybe have 1, maybe 2 names that I think could make a case for a C potentially.
Well, I mean, do you want to put Tyler Reddick since we're talking about 23-11? Like, we could put him at the tail end of C. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Reddick's kind of that one guy that he's not going to be chalky. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on Reddick, especially with kind of what we see with his finishing positions here. So I'm completely okay with that. I would like to throw out Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe has been one of the best here.
I want to throw him out too, Seth. Wait, no, never mind. You want to put him on the board. Okay.
Yes. I do want to throw maybe a D. Maybe he's a high D. Chase Briscoe been surprisingly good. had over 40 DraftKings points last week. And he's a guy who continues to have some speed at Atlanta. The finishes don't always come. Kind of in that Tyler Reddick role a little bit there, that he doesn't always get those finishes. So I like Briscoe. We have a couple Yoders left on the board. Where do you think they fit in?
Can you get behind a Noah Gragson as a D? I mean, that 10 car actually looked decent. Like, he finished 9th.
Yeah.
That's 69 points. Cody, where you at? Nice. At $6,300, right? That's more than 10 times what you invested in him in that one. So look, if this is indicative of things to come and for pack racing for Noah Gragson, then I mean, I'm with it. I'll take it as a D driver, and maybe somebody you're definitely not going to see a lot of out there, because at $6,300, people are probably want to pass him up. But yeah, it was a hell of a showing last week.
Yes. I'm with you there. I think we're kind of contractually obligated to put out some of these Toyotas here. I drive Toyotas. I love me some TRD. Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs, maybe Ty's an F. I just don't trust him again. But these guys both scored like 30 plus DK points last week, and I don't think anyone was on them. I don't know if anyone will be this week as well. Martin Truex, $9K, a little expensive for my taste here. And Ty Gibbs, $7,800, a little more expensive than I think I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, well, I know that Ty Gibbs burns a lot of people nowadays. It's he's such a talented driver. You just got to see it. You just got to see him put it. I don't know. Look, here's the thing about it too. I love it, and you can come at me for my broadcasting skills all you want. I don't care. I'm tough enough to take it all. But like, as a driver, when you're underperforming. No one's got to tell you that. And me and you sitting here talking about it isn't going to make them drive any better. But the fact of the matter is, yes, that's exactly what's happening right now. Ty Gibbs is going through kind of a lull. And Martin Truex on this track, I would definitely not want to really roster him. So if you do, then that's going to give you better leverage on me, because I probably won't have him in any of my lineups this week.
Yeah. So. Oh, Rod, it's getting tough. We're down in the weeds of it. I love the 99. I think as another little leverage play. He looked good until he didn't last week. Had some real speed in the duels. Was up there, got up to lead some laps, cash our leading lap ticket, and just kind of got caught up in it. But Daniel Suarez, I'll talk about him more in betting. Electric though, Atlanta. So maybe he's even a C. Were we even?
Put him in the C. We could put him in the C.
Okay.
He's not a Briscoe. And I would maybe even put him above Larson.
Yeah. I will do that. Who else do you like or not like?
I was gonna say, who else do I like in this? I don't know. Josh Berry is a D. I mean, if we're talking SHR, Josh Berry actually did have somewhat of a decent day last week. In fact, he has scored you. Let's see what I just had it here in a second ago and I just scrolled off of it. But yeah, Josh Berry, not really bad of a day altogether. I guess if you really want to get crazy, got 22 points for you on $6,000. Not bad. A 30th place start, 25th place finish, 4 fast laps. He actually led a lap, so we could do that. And then you could throw Zane Smith up in the in the mix as well.
Yes, I like Zane Smith a lot, man. Like, Zane Smith is like, he has a capped upside every single week. He's never gonna break the slate. He's never gonna win you the week, but he's not gonna burn it either, man. 41 DraftKings points for you last week. He was a nice little a little pay down option last week for you. So I like him. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we can throw him up here in this tier probably just out of respect. I don't necessarily love what he's done on this track. He's a little bit hit or miss. This isn't one of his great super speedways. What do we do with Josh Williams? He's the new guy in the number 16 car. Although AJ Allmendinger continues to bring life to this organization, life to this car, he won't be in it here in the 16. It's going to be Josh Williams. How do you feel about the guy who once parked it here in the Xfinity Series?
I think it's good enough for a D. I think it's good enough. The equipment itself should be a D equipment. So, the driver, he parked it. Still making money off of that merch for sure. And plus, look, he's only $5,000. Like, literally, this is a free ticket for you if you would like to spend up at your expense, because the 16 is going to be good equipment. We know that Allmendinger is a good super speedway racer in and of himself, and a lot of that does have to do with the equipment as well. So, yeah, I think even if he finishes inside of the top 20, you're going to be happy, because he's probably not going to qualify well.
Yep. Yep. And what about his teammate, Daniel Hemrick? Actually had a surprising day. And I said, oh my God, is Daniel Hemrick going to have a good place? And, we were talking shit on him all offseason. We were talking shit on him last week. We didn't have him ranked. I think he's an F. I think you can at least throw him on the board with what we saw last week. It was encouraging.
I can't say his name, but yes, go ahead and put him up in the Fs. Well, you talk about contractually obligated. I'm literally not allowed to say that guy's name. So, in fact, I have a button in which I press anytime I start to say his name. So we're good on that. Yeah, toss him in the Fs. It's the same equipment, right? But I don't know. I still feel more comfortable with the 16 than I do the 31.
Yeah. I would say throw the front row guys maybe in the F tier as well. Like, can you give any love to him? I mean, Michael McDowell was one of the only drivers to score negatives last week after that equipment failure. That was a bummer. But Todd Gillen had a nice little run until he didn't as well. He was up there leading some laps.
Yeah, and again, it's just a matter of can you trust them to finish? That's the biggest part. And not just finish, but can you trust them to finish on the lead lap? And I don't know that you can trust Michael. It's such a sad thing for Michael McDowell because you go out there, you do well in the duels, right? You put yourself in a good position to start, and then all of a sudden, like your car just goes, nah, I waited too long. I think I'm not going to run.
Yeah, it was an absolute bummer. I'm not ranking Austin Dillon. I'm not going to rank him. I'll talk about it, but dude, his finishes here are dog shit. His finishes are absolute dog shit. I'm not interested in ranking Austin Dillon. Kaz Gralla in the number 15 car this week. I'm good on that as well. Like, I don't think we should be throwing Kaz Gralla in any lineups, despite him having a decent run last week, 15 DK points. Harrison Burton. Man, I tried to trust him last week. It didn't go my way. Ryan Preece, maybe throw him on the board, just, out of respect.
If we're putting everybody, all the other SA, and he's the lead dog at SHR right now. So go ahead and put him in the Fs.
Yeah, we can.
You can put him over the 31.
Yeah, yep. 51, Justin Haley. I can't trust the equipment. Justin Haley's had great ass runs, man. Brian was all over him last week. I had a bet on him last week. Rick Ware, he hasn't finished 2 races on the lead lap because of the equipment malfunctions. I'm not trusting it here this week until I see better.
Yeah, me either. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. I wouldn't even rank him.
Yep. Carson Hocevar, maybe on the board, had a decent run. 14.4, kind of got in the middle of some shit as he usually does, but I think Carson Hocevar, at least on fan tracks, he's a $5 minimum. You could do worse.
You could do worse, but you could do way better. Carson Hocevar, I'm trying to look at his price. He's 5,900. I'd rather take Williams than Hocevar if we're being completely honest.
Okay. We'll throw him at the back end of the Fs. We won't rank our guy BJ McLeod, but good to see BJ and Matt Tifton, the boys, back out there last weekend running that Team Live Fast car out there. All black. Didn't qualify for the race. That was kind of a bummer, but I'm excited to see him suited up here. And you could do worse than BJ this week, but I will not be. I'll not be throwing BJ in any lineups. Maybe until Daytona, if that.
Listen, I'm telling you guys, for all of us out there that host these shows, I guarantee you we could get enough money together to sponsor a car for BJ. Can we just make that a thing? Like between us, between the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, before the NASCAR betting preview, Full Tank with Phil, like, can we just get the pot together and like put our logos on his car? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I think we could do it depending how the DFS winnings go this week. If someone can hit the Millie Maker, I think maybe we make that investment. How about that?
I'm there for it. Let's go. The more stickers, the more decals we could put on BJ McLeod's card, the better.
Yes, I am with you there. Guys, so this is our DFS tiers. You can find the article on the website tomorrow as well. We'll put that out there for y'all. But Rod, let's go ahead. Let's round out the show. Let's talk some bets here in parking garage props. Something about that drop just makes me want to like light up a cigar, even though I do not like cigars, and just like hang out on the porch. You know what I mean? Enjoy a little smooth jazz for the evening, Rod.
I want to pour myself some whiskey and sit out on a porch swing and look out over the setting sun over a cactus. That's what I want to do.
There we go. There we go. Guys, want to remind you all, we are going to try to do some giveaways here at the end of April around NFL draft, around the Richmond race. So if you guys are new to the channel, let us know. Drop us a like, subscribe, and then help us reach that goal, man, 1,000. We're getting up there, and we can't thank you guys all enough for the help. But Rod, let's talk about some betting here. What are your impressions of the books this week? I don't know. I'm mixed this week. I awarded them last week. I applauded. I don't know if I do that this week.
So I don't know that they got gouged last week, so they're probably feeling pretty confident that they can just give us numbers and we'll take them, which honestly, it's kind of the way it is, right? They give us numbers, we have to take them. But I think they're playing it a little closer because they know that this is not the same sort of chaotic whirlwind of a couple of laps that we're going to get. And of course the weather's not factoring into this too, so you don't necessarily have to worry about canceling anybody's bets. So I think they're basically taking a stance of, look, we know that this is still going to be a not as predictable race as most, but we also know that you guys know that, and we're going to, adjust accordingly so that we don't get completely set out on our ass this week.
Yeah, it's a difficult week. I'll extend a little bit of grace towards the odds makers when you consider, hey, the race just ended on Monday. They kind of turned it around pretty quickly here. Didn't see a lot of props out there until about yesterday, sometime during the day. I think we were seeing those come through. So that was a little bit of a bummer. And just kind of a bummer not to see some of these fun markets that I was able to exploit last week, the top 20s, the Toledo lap markets. Like, this is a super speedway. I think you could make the case for those markets. Maybe we see them back in Talladega later this spring, but bummer not to see him here.
I think they should just do it every race. Like, honestly,
yes,
you need to employ me to do it. Employ me to do. I will make those bets for you, because I know that we all enjoy seeing them, and there's some of the more fun markets to cheer for, because outrights, top 10s, top 5s, that's fantastic. But boy, if I'm sitting there going, oh my God, stay out so you can lead this lap, right? Don't pit to whatever driver, then I feel like that's more fun in the long run.
Yes, I'm with you there, Rod. Let's move to the outright market first. Who is an outright that maybe caught your eye that you're trying to get on down before qualifying?
Well, so you talked about him earlier in the tiers, and that's Christopher Bell. I got him at 11-1 right now over on Caesars. I know that he's sort of on the same level as most of the other favorites, but you talked about him being at the top of that speed rankings, right? He's been a very fast car, and we saw what happened in the duel. We saw what happened at Daytona. We saw how very close it could have been for him to end up winning that race. Well, maybe not really close, but close enough for me to think that he can come back and sort of rekindle that speed and that. I guess I'm not really a guy that's on Chris Bell a lot. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just
same.
Yeah. Anytime I do research and his name pops up, I'm just like, okay, that's Christopher Bell. But like this week, I can't ignore it. And then of course, last week after what we saw, like I said, I don't think you can ignore it. And 11-1 still a really good price for an outright, even whether this is a super speedway or not.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing 14-1 now on DK. I wasn't seeing that earlier today, so I don't know why I'm seeing that number now, but might be able to get that even a little bit better there at 14-1. I can't blame you there. I don't have any Chris Bell on my card, but I think maybe I should get invested. I bet a little FOMO bet on him last week with one of those promos we got out there from Bet Rivers, so that was nice. I got a free bet to use this week because of it. I'm gonna go with Kyle Busch, 16-1. And I was really surprised when, I think we all do it in our head. We do our exercise. Okay, I wonder what X driver is going to be when things open. To see Kyle Busch 16-1, I was pretty surprised. Actually, a pretty good plate racer in this next gen era. He's placed in the top 10, 5 of the 9 races. And we've heard many drivers like Denny Hamlin on Action's Detrimental a couple weeks ago said, if there's one driver at the end I want pushing me, it's Kyle Busch. I trust this guy. And the dude is fucking relentless. Fought off issue after issue last week, was able to finish 12th, 4th in the total speed ranking, 2nd in pass differential, which I was not surprised when I saw that stat because the guy was just passing everyone left and right, back and forth, 2nd in the average position, 10.6, and 8th in laps led. And I think what's most important for me, he was the number 1 rated driver, number 1 in driver rating. People think he raced the best last week. And when you look at Atlanta specifically for him, Rod, he's finished top 10 in 2 races in this RCR number 8 Chevy. Never necessarily had great speed, like down in the total speed rankings when you look at it, but he's able to avoid trouble, and he had great late run speed last year, 3rd best, which was able to get him into the top 10. So I'm on the outright here at 16-1, Rod, and then I'm also in at a top 10 number of plus 115 at Bet Rivers. I'm going a unit and a half on that. I'm going very heavy on Kyle Busch this week, and I was stunned to see him even at plus 115 there, considering DK has a minus 145 for a top 10.
Yeah, and they've got him plus at 14-1 to win the race, so they definitely value him a little heavier, and rightfully so. Like you said, I mean, it's Kyle Busch. At any point that you start to say, well, Kyle, and I've done it, and I did it last season. I was like, well, maybe Kyle Busch isn't necessarily all the way there. He'll jump up and he'll win a race, or he'll have a top 5 finish in a in a race that he's been around the front all day long. So, I mean, he's tough to handicap because you don't know which Kyle Busch you're going to get from any given day. But yeah, I mean, here especially, give me the good Kyle Busch, and I'm okay with backing him like I did. We put him the first one on our list. Yeah, I think there's valid points to that.
Love it. We got Nick. He's back in the chat. Probably, I don't know what Nick was doing. I don't know. Nick disappeared for a little bit, but now he's back. So glad to have Nick back nonetheless. And then we got Didi in the chat. Hello, boys. Good to see you, Didi. Hope you're having a great week. Thanks for tuning in here with us on this beautiful Thursday evening. Even other outrights you're exploring right now?
Yeah, the winner of this race last year, Joey Logano. I think you got to put him, for Logano, what we saw last week is even year Logano. I'm going to keep riding that until it's done. But last year, he was also the 4th fastest in total speed rankings on this track and still won the race. So that just goes to show you don't got to be the fastest car to win. You just got to be able to know how to put your car where it needs to be when the finish line is there. So do I think Joey Logano could go back to back? I think it's worth the exploration. I definitely like it. I want to see where DK has Logano. They got him at 9-1.
Yeah.
But I actually had Logano at 10-1, which
okay.
I don't know what it is about those extra 100 points, but when you go from 3 digits to 4 digits, it makes me feel a little bit better about it. So, but I do think that it's still a responsible bet because I think he can do it. I think he's of any driver can win the same race in 2 years in a row.
Okay. Yeah, I feel a little burned from Joey Logano. Maybe it's just fatigue because I was on him so heavily, touting him all last week. But I could get down with it. I'm seeing him right now 12-1 at Bet Rivers. So that's, I think, a little more reasonable. He just feels snake bitten a little bit the last couple weeks. He's had one of the fastest cars, both at the Clash, both at Daytona. Can he figure it out here? Can Joey Logano figure it out? I guess we'll see on Sunday. Rod's going to be backing it. Didi saying, sorry, I've been MIA, but glad to be here. That's all right, Didi. We got lives, man. We got lives, and glad to have you back as we head towards Atlanta. I'm going a small wager in the outright market on William Byron to go back-to-back here. And he's the only person better than Kyle Busch last week in pass differential. He had 51 plus passes. Kyle Busch had 36. 7th in the total speed rankings at Daytona last week. That's good enough to win. You need a fast car, but you also need to be at the right place at the right time. And William Byron, he does that, and he does that at Atlanta almost better than anybody. He was 2nd in the total speed rankings since the reconfiguration here across 4 races. Won last time here. Led a good bit of laps, 10.3% of the laps. So it wasn't a super fluky win. And he's won both Atlanta races here. There are 2 Atlanta races as well, leading 172 laps. So I like William Byron. Rod, can you talk me out of him?
Nah, he won the most races last year. I mean, it's William Byron. Out of all of and we talked about how frustrating of a season it was last year for Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, but William Byron was the only one that was actually doing anything with the consistent basis and winning races. And it wasn't Kyle Larson. I mean, everybody would expect, if you were to say, I'll give you one Hendrick driver that's going to win the most races, most people would probably say it's Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I thought
William Byron did it, right?
Yeah. Yep. And he's hot, and I think he's going to stay hot here. So I also like him for a top 5 plus 240 over there at Bet Rivers. Win a little over a half a unit on that one as well. Rod, is there anything else in the outright market you have not touched on that you would like to?
Nah, I mean, again, to me, I know that we love chaos and we embrace it on these super speedway types track, but not this one. This one, you got to stay closer to the favorites.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you there. And just keep in mind too, if there's something after qualifying, potentially maybe we see some promos again. We saw some nice promos come out. Not FanDuel. I put a little review out on Twitter on Sunday morning of some promos, and The FanDuel one was shitty. It wasn't even getting you back to what the odds should be. But Bet Rivers had a nice one. They had a top 5 insurance. If your outright doesn't win, it gets top 5. You get a free bet out of it. I got that with Chris Bell last week. So keep an eye on other guys, what we haven't really mentioned. Potentially, if they move down the odds board, I think we like Ryan Blaney. If someone said, hey, I'm going to get on Ryan Blaney Sunday morning and a little better odds, I don't think we would blame that. And Ross Chastain, same thing, 18-1, not too bad. So there are some names out there. Those are the 4 drivers that Rod and I have placed some tickets for, though. Let's move to placement props. Anyone we haven't touched on yet you'd like to throw out there to the IBT family, Rod?
Well, I mean, you just said his name, Ross Chastain, and we talked about him earlier in the tire tiers. Like Ross Chastain, he finished second, right? He was runner-up in both of those races in the spring. I know it was a rough 2023 season for him. He had so much going on. It was him getting in trouble on the track. It might have been him up in his head. I don't know what was going on, but I think we saw a lot of that go away last week at Daytona. And I think if the watermelon smashing Ross Chastain is back, then I think him as a top 3 car could very easily happen. And there was a boost. I'm not sure if it's still out there for him to be a top 3 car at 700. Yeah. Oh no, it's 600 now. So people tailed that one down there when I gave it out the other day. So still 6-1 for a Ross Chastain top 3 finish. I think that's worth a look.
Okay. All right. Some big money value there on Ross to finish up the board. I have a case to make for the number 42 car, but I know you're also on Legacy. So what did you like about Legacy last week? What has you running back and potentially betting them again here as we head to Hotlanta?
I just think it's what we saw last week. I think we saw them work well together. I think we saw them stay out of trouble. At least those 2 of the 3 stayed out of trouble. The third one just had it kind of fall into his lap, unfortunately. But and then Toyota. I mean, this manufacturer switch could have been all the difference for these guys in finishing in the mid-20s to now top 10 finishes almost week after week. Because again, when you're in the Chevy camp, you are in with a majority of the drivers, right? You kind of now you separate yourself into a smaller camp, and now you're one of 8 or 2 of 8,
yes,
instead of 2 of 18. You know. So I think this helped them, and I think it's going to continue to help them. So for me, I mean, again, as I watched these guys go through last week, it just seemed like a much different philosophy, mindset, and just an overall, obviously the results were there too. So that's what I love about Legacy this year, as opposed to last year, the lame duck year for them.
Yeah, and it was great to see them get out and 2 top 10 finishes at the Daytona 500 is nothing to sneeze at for a team that I don't think they did that once last year, you know? So great to see that from the 42 and the 43. I like what we saw out of John Hunter Nemechek. Did he have his rookie moments? Yes, he spun Josh Berry on pit road. That was kind of a weird mix-up. Should have been way over to the right rather than way over the left like he was. And you know, he did get in the mix of a couple wrecks as well, but he was able to get through them. And he just looks like he has a shit ton of confidence. Made some veteran moves out there with some lane changes. 9th in the total speed rankings, finished 7th, also 4th best in that pass differential, Rod, plus 22. And let's not forget, too, he wasn't only good in the Daytona 500, he was 4th in his own duel last week. So, like, I think JHN has something here. Last year, 3rd in his Atlanta truck race. He won his last Xfinity race at Atlanta and 8th in the other Xfinity Atlanta race. So, top 10s across the board for him. I know there are other series it doesn't always translate, but we saw he has good speed in a cup car as well. Right now, I have him down for plus 265, top 10 at Bet Rivers, half a unit. And then I also went with a little under a quarter of a unit with a longer shot, 15-1 for the top Toyota. I was surprised to see that number out there, Rod, when you know you see a guy like Ty Gibbs, you see Eric Jones, they're more in that 6-7, 8-1 range. And then John Hunter, who already had a top 10, all the way back at 15, that's an outright price.
Yeah, again, and so for Nemechek as a top 10 car, I had him at plus 260 as well, and then Eric Jones at plus 180. So yeah, I mean the price. So you said plus 265. Is that's what you said you got him at? Yeah. So they're even getting farther away. I don't think you can wait and get this price gets better, but at the same token, you see that it hasn't really moved, which means people aren't really on it, which is probably a good reason to get on it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agreed with you there. Let's go ahead to matchups and groups here. Rod, was there anything you found out there? I definitely found some intriguing lineups in the group market, more than I had, and even in the matchup market. I didn't get down on anything yet, but I liked at least seeing some intriguing lines.
Yeah, so here's what's funny about it too. So if you look at the head-to-heads on Caesars, they give you the normal ones as well, but they're also giving you manufacturer. So they're giving you Hendrick versus Gibbs. They're giving you Spire versus Front Row. They're giving you RFK versus 2311. So I think I'm going to turn my attention to this Spire versus Front Row.
I did not see that. That's a great call out.
Yeah, give me Spire over Front Row. I know it's at minus 125, but Spire, Corey LaJoy, right? And the 71 as well. I mean, we talked about Front Row and how disappointing it was for them last week. So they're at minus 105 Front Row.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but give me Spire over Front Row minus 125. I like that matchup.
I like that as well, man. And let's not forget, man, like Spire they have more cars right now as well. And Zane Smith is a little bit of a wild card in there. So yeah, I like that bet a lot. I think I honestly like every driver for Spire more than the Front Row boys this week. So really good call out there. I like that a lot. I went with a group here for my first one, Rod, and I'm taking some shots. I put on the thumbnail today, ballsy bets only. Because we're throwing ballsy bets only this week. We are safe at Daytona. I was taking a lot of, close to minus money, close to even money on some bets. I was just like, hey, I want to get out there even. This week, we're going ballsy. We're taking some longer shots here. I found Daniel Suarez as the long shot in a group I didn't think he should be. That's on Caesars. He's plus 380 in Group C over there. He's matched up against Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric, Bowman, and Michael McDowell. And I think you're just getting some value here on Suarez, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, instead of Jesus take the wheel, it's mi amigo, take the wheel this week. I'm with him. Looked good. Got the lead late in that race. 10th in the total speed rankings last week as well. And number one among this group by far in the total speed rankings. The only one close to him was Bowman, who I think Bowman is the biggest threat to this bet not cashing. So I think, or Austin Cindric. I do like Cindric a little bit this week, but I'm not worried about Ty Gibbs. I'm not worried about McDowell. It's more those other two cars that I could be. But still, when you look at finishes at Atlanta for Daniel Suarez since this reconfiguration, 4th, 6th, 29th, and 2nd. I mean, that's 3 top 6. That's crazy. So I think to get an underdog guy who shouldn't be the underdog, I like it.
I mean, I love Daniel Suarez anyways, right? I mean, it's even said it on the show. If you listen to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, Cody talked about him a little bit, and he wondered if I actually put him in the dock for him, which I did not. He actually put him on his own free will. But yeah, I mean, we kind of feel the same about him this week too. It's just Daniel Suarez, he's got to do something, because I think I was listening to it the other day. I think he's on the hot seat. A lot of people like to think he's on the hot seat this year. And I think he does need to kind of prove something this year. Not that I think he's going to get kicked out of his ride, but his life could be a little bit more rough if he doesn't do a little more this season.
Yep, I'm with you there. Anything else matchup or group wise you have, Rod?
Group G on Caesars contains Justin Haley, Zane Smith, the name I cannot say, but I will say it because I have to, Daniel Hemrick, and Josh Williams. I like Zane Smith, plus 215 for Zane Smith to win this group. Again, Josh Williams, we talked about the 16, could very well be a good car, but we saw Zane Smith actually finish well last week, right? We saw him actually impress us last week, and SHR, believe it or not, is actually doing good things this season, even though they got a bunch of young folks. And Zane Smith's not in that. Rod, what are you talking about? I'm thinking about Josh Berry. My junior motorsports love is completely all over the place for it. But no, Zane Smith, Spire. I knew that because I was talking about Spire. But yeah, those Spires, we're talking about them finishing in a higher group than Front Row. But I think Zane can kind of creep his way back up into a top 15 finish, which I think is good enough to finish above all of these guys in this group, right? Above the Justin Haley's, who you said it yourself, you can't even trust him anymore. Don't know about the 16, don't know about the 31.
Yeah. I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all. Honestly, I will be giving that a look. One other one I want to throw out here for groups. We touched on him a little bit earlier. Corey LaJoie, another Spire guy. So more reason to bet Rod Spire matchup there against Front Row. But Corey LaJoie, Group E at Bet Rivers, plus 255 here. I'm going to half a unit. He's up against Michael McDowell, Austin Dillon, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We know LaJoie finished 4th last week and wasn't a great car all day. Average as far as running position, 18.5, average in the total speed rankings. But still, the best among these drivers in the running position, second in the total speed, only to Ricky Stenhouse. And what I like about Corey LaJoie is he's great at Atlanta. 2 top 5s and an Asterisks marks 21, where he was potentially going to win that race. So you could almost say there was potential for 3 top 5s for him here. Got caught up here in the fall. However, look at what Stenhouse has done on this track. His best finish, 110th place. Austin Dillon, his best finish is 21st. We didn't have him ranked in DFS. He fucking sucks here. I will be mind blown. Like I don't know what. I'll wear something ridiculous to next week's pod if Austin Dillon beats Corey LaJoie in this bet. Michael McDowell also, he has a 4th place from last fall, but 15th is his other best finish. So I really think Corey LaJoie against McDowell, against AD, against Stenhouse has a leg up here. And at plus 255, I'm willing to take the shot.
Hey, if our car lift goes all the way to the top, then he's going to win this group and the race. So, I like that because, again, it's Corey LaJoie, and I'm contractually obligated to say good things about Corey LaJoie. So, we'll take that.
Fire, baby.
Fire, baby. All right.
What else, Rod? You got anything for matchups or groups, or do you want to round us out with a numbers bet?
Well, not even a numbers bet. Let's do this. You want a special? I'll give you a special.
Yes.
I love Caesars because they have the Quinellas, right? Which means that either one of them can finish either way. Let's take the winners of the last 2 races at this track and the winner of last week's race. It's Joey Logano paired with William Byron at 30-1 as a Quinella. So if they finish 1-2 in any combination, that bet's going to cash. So if Joey Logano wins the race and Byron comes in second, cashes. If Byron comes in first, Logano comes in second, it cashes. They're fun little ways to just kind of, toss a half a unit out there, toss a quarter of a unit out there. And if that sort of pans out, then these guys have been the last 2 in victory row in this race. And then, William Byron did it last week. And if we're putting these guys as outrights, then we might as well just say, look, both of them are good enough to win this race. So if they finish 1-2 in any order, 30-1.
I love it, man. Rod, you are sharp, my friend, and I'm excited to have you along for the ride here on the Backroad this season, man. Some excellent advice going out to the IBT family. Tell us how we can best support you and everything else you have going on outside of In Between Media this season, my friend.
So you can find me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. There's a link in my bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, where 5 days a week, Cody and I are giving out picks 5 days a week. And then if you want to get into some football, I know NFL season's over, but Arena Football League is kicking off soon. Got the Arena Football League podcast, and then, of course, my articles for Sportsbook Review. Got some wrestling stuff coming up. WrestleMania's the road to WrestleMania is starting, so I got some of that going on as well. But busy times. I know that the freelance lifestyle never stops.
It never does, my friend, and we appreciate you for it. And I appreciate everyone like Cody tuning in tonight, and Dee and Nick. Thank you guys so much for being a part of our IBT family and our NASCAR community as well. We're continuing to grow it, so thank you guys very, very much. As far as myself, you can find me on Twitter at between_SethFF. But the easiest way to support us, guys, go to inbetweenmedia.com. Check out all the amazing written content we have over there, and subscribe to the channel. Hang out with us again. We're going to be live here every single Thursday night of the season, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope everyone has a great Atlanta weekend. Follow us on the Betting Pros app to make sure that you're catching what Ellie and I are doing over there as we're getting closer to Sunday. Follow us on Twitter as well, and make sure you're staying connected with us. Until next time, you guys know what to do. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy it and keep it in between. Thank y'all.